Republican Party, the party that we all hate, the Republican Party that we want to burn to the ground, Steve, that we want to die and go away. I spoke to President Trump just a little over an hour ago. Absolutely love him. I love him. I have so much faith in him. He is walking into an arena filled with people that want to murder him. He's got to be questioned by Jake Tapper that called him a terrorist, called him a Nazi, called him every name in the book. And then Dana Bash, that little piece of shit.
During her most recent appearance on Steve Bannon's MAGA podcast, a very triggered Marjorie Taylor Greene went on her most unhinged rant yet, saying, among other things, that she wants to burn the Republican Party to the ground because she wants it to die and be buried. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we have several clips to look at in this video, and I should begin by apologizing because this may fry your brain having back-to-back Marjorie Taylor Greene-centric videos, but we do have to talk about it. In a previous video today, I played a clip from Marjorie Taylor Greene's most recent appearance on Steve Bannon's War Room podcast, in which she was spreading a deranged and baseless conspiracy theory that President Biden and the Democrats are going to steal the upcoming election. Again, unsubstantiated. She offered no proof of it, but she just feels that way because it just feels right for Donald Trump to win. And that's the only way he can lose, so she says. And as crazy as that was, it turns out she had even more unhinged moments than that, and much of it was directed at her own party. So we're going to play this clip and then another one. But in this clip, Marjorie Taylor Greene talks about burning her own party, the Republican Party, to the ground because she says she wants it to die and be buried.
They are completely aligned with the uniparty, the same uniparty that I work with up here in Washington, D.C., that wants to do everything they can to destroy President Trump and destroy MAGA. They are going to press as hard as possible, no matter who they have to align themselves with, to get past Trump, to get rid of Trump, move past Trump, past the Trump era, get rid of the MAGA. They're MAGA extremists, push them to the side. They want to return the party back to what it used to be. That is the old neocon, completely globalist-run Republican Party, the party that we all hate. The Republican Party that we want to burn to the ground, Steve, that we want to die and go away. They want to bring that back, and that is the leader. Absolutely. They're going to.
Again, super unhinged stuff that, I mean, it's bad enough when she talks about the Democratic Party, but in many ways, this is even more unhinged because you would think if she had any sense of rationality about her, she would try to be closing ranks within her party. Instead, she's chasing these wild conspiracy theories that Donald Trump's cult, which is the modern day Republican Party, is actually divided against him and is part of this uniparty establishment, which is trying to, destroy and sabotage Trump from within. And I wish that were the case. I wish that indeed that there were a substantial portion of the Republican Party, certainly in elected office, that would fortify itself against Trump. But the reality is, no, Marge, you've actually taken over the GOP. It is full-throatedly behind Donald Trump. You're just too stupid to recognize it. But again, weird stuff, which probably should alarm many of Greene's fellow Republicans who are, out of fear, devoted to Trump, perhaps not as cultishly devoted to Trump as Greene herself. But it's like, lady, we're on your team. Again, I wish her conception of the GOP were true, but it's simply not. Speaking of cultish devotion, however, I want to turn your attention to this clip. And again, note the mood change. Like, she just snaps within short order. She begins this clip just as she usually does, mooning and dreaming, talking about Donald Trump. And I just love him so much. And then within a few seconds, she snaps and works herself up into a froth over other people. We're going to play the clip and unpack it together.
Are you comfortable?
I spoke to President Trump just a little over an hour ago. Absolutely love him. I love him. I have so much faith in him. I have complete faith that he is going to hit a home run, but he is walking into a trap. He is walking into a rigged debate. He is walking into an arena filled with people that want to murder him. He's going to stand 10 feet away from Joe Biden, who wants to put him in prison the rest of his life, wants him to die and rot in prison, and Joe Biden wants to put the rest of his family in prison. That's who he has to stand next to when he has to debate. He's got to be questioned by Jake Tapper that called him a terrorist, called him a Nazi, called him every name in the book. And then Dana Bash, that little piece of shit whose husband is one of the 51 spies who lied. That is what President Trump is walking into. And it disgusts me. It infuriates me. I can't believe our country has come to this. Our politics are horrific. This is why a lot of people like me don't even want to vote anymore. They don't even want to vote for Republicans. They're fed up with the entire system. They think the two parties suck. People ages 18 to 29 are like, why do I even want to vote? All these old people and all these horrible people in politics don't represent me. The entire thing is a complete debacle. It's an embarrassment, and we're going to have to watch it happen tomorrow night. But I have full faith in President Trump, Steve. Full faith in him. He's going to do his absolute best, and I really hope America sees it. But are they going to be fair? No, they're not.
She is quite unhinged. Again, just the peaks and valleys of her temper in about 90 seconds. Extraordinary stuff, just frothing at the mouth over Jake Tapper and Dana Bash, the two CNN moderators who are moderating at the time of recording tomorrow's debate between President Biden and convicted felon Donald Trump. And by the way, Donald Trump agreed to those terms. He had every chance to say no or propose an alternative slate of moderators, whatever. He could have said no. He wasn't compelled to do this. He chose to do it anyway, and she can't handle that. You know, this idea that they're not going to be fair. What does fair look like to Marjorie Taylor Greene? Remember, she's a cultist, right? So to her, fair is basically asking Joe Biden exclusively tough questions, misrepresenting Biden's agenda, his policies, his positions, the way that Marjorie Taylor Greene herself just did, right? Joe Biden wants to murder Donald Trump. He wants to throw his whole family in jail. Lady, what are you talking about? There are no pending lawsuits that I'm familiar with against Don Jr., Eric, Ivanka, or anything. Like, what are you talking about? But again, she's so far removed from reality because she's in a cult. So weird, gross stuff. And speaking of cult, it reminds me, again, Marjorie Taylor Greene, she doesn't stand alone. She doesn't. She is emblematic of tens of millions of Americans. Not the majority of this country, far from the majority, but tens of millions of Americans nonetheless who animate the Republican Party in its current iteration. I want you to hear this clip, this viral clip from from C-SPAN. And this is a Republican who called in to talk to the legendarily dry C-SPAN. And he expressed in a very unique and explicit way how he feels about Donald Trump.
On the Republican line. Good morning, Aaron.
Good morning. That's right. I'm in New Mexico now. I used to be in Massachusetts. So there's this rumor on TikTok that they're going to replace Biden on the ticket. And Jesse Waters was on Fox just the other day talking about it. Is there any truth to this?
Are you going to vote for Biden or a replacement?
No, ma'am, of course not. I don't care what parts on who Donald Trump touches and who he brags to about it. I love Donald Trump. I would only adore him more personally if he were to molest my mother.
Michael and Wood.
It's a cult. It's a cult. I'd like to think that guy represents 100 people, but the reality is, based on what we've seen, based on the polling data, based on how people think of Trump, he probably represents tens of millions of Americans. Here's another clip which really accentuates another aspect of the cultishness of MAGA.
What do you love most about President Trump?
I don't know. Dad, what do I love most?
Everything? That's hard to just choose one thing, right? What do you love most about?
Hey, you're here decked out in Trump attire at a Trump rally. You're talking to a Trump-friendly media network. What do you love about Trump? I don't know. What do I love about Trump? Do you not have your own thoughts about it? No. I need to defer to other people again because that's the cultish devotion to authority. And then the woman with the microphone's like, oh my God, there's almost like too many things. Like, he's so perfect. He's better than everybody. He's like Jesus. Again, really crazy stuff. This is why, much as I try, it is hard not to have enormous contempt for these people. They are probably in many ways victims of the cultish aspect of Trump. Like, they're taken advantage of by the likes of Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Steve Bannon. But it's really hard not to be disgusted with what so many people have chosen, and it is a choice, what chosen to do with their time, effort, and energy. I don't feel this way, and I hope none of you do, about President Biden, AOC, Bernie Sanders, Sheldon Whitehouse, Jamie Raskin. I hope none of you do. It's okay to respect elected representatives and politicians. It's okay perhaps even to admire them, but you should certainly never, ever worship them, Republican or Democrat. It's incredibly dangerous and gross. They're people, right? They're people who represent us because we loan them power in our democratic republic, our constitutional democratic republic. They're not divine, and it would be a mistake to consider them that way. Again, it's a cult of personality we've just never seen on the scale. People, Republicans used to whine about the cult of personality that surrounded President Obama, right? Because he was so charismatic and he was seen as a transformative generational, like once in a generation figure. And I don't think he lived up to that. I think as Jon Stewart famously said, that, he campaigned as a visionary and governed as a functionary. I think there's quite a bit of truth to that. There's no doubt about Obama's charisma and his rhetorical gifts and the inspiration that he invoked in countless Americans across this country, understandably so. But I've never seen anything like this, that Donald Trump has created, this weird, gross cult. I don't believe that President Obama could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and not lose a vote. I do think that's the case with Donald Trump's base, that Trump could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue, as he prophesied years ago. He predicted, he understood. He was like, gosh, I have these people wrapped around my finger so much that I could murder someone in broad daylight and still have their support. I absolutely believe that that's true. I believe that when it comes to the MAGA base, there is no limiting principle. There is no line for Donald Trump. It's also infiltrated this cultishness going all the way back to Marjorie Taylor Greene, her fellow congresspeople. So as The Independent pointed out, Republicans in Congress, the House of Representatives, this historically unproductive iteration of the House of Representatives. Remember, this is the least productive iteration of the House of Congress because of the House since the Great Depression. It's on track to be the least productive since the Civil War. That is exclusively the fault of elected Republicans. When Nancy Pelosi and Democrats were in charge and Donald Trump was in the White House, Congress was more productive than this. So it's just exclusively the fault, the incompetence, the dysfunction, the stupidity of elected Republicans. But yet they managed to find the time to propose legislation to rename everything after him. Republicans now want to rename the oceans after Donald Trump. House GOP could rename coastal waters to the Donald John Trump exclusive economic zone of the United States. A proposed bill from a House Republican would rename coastal waters around the U.S. after Donald Trump, whose administration rolled back dozens of environmental rules while he was in office. Let's see. Legislation from Florida Representative Greg Steube would rename the U.S. exclusive economic zone to the Donald John Trump exclusive economic zone of the United States. The area spans roughly 4.3 million nautical miles and extends no more than 200 nautical miles from the territorial sea baseline and is adjacent to 12 nautical mile territorial sea of the U.S. and its territories. Quote, Floridians know the great value of our coastal natural resources and how important it is to have a president who cares about the strength and resilience of our oceans. And again, it's not just that. If you recall, we did a video about this. They also want to rename Dulles Airport in Washington, D.C. after Trump as well. This is what they're doing with their time. Cultishly wanting to rename everything in the country after him. I guarantee you, I'm actually kind of stunned it hasn't happened already. Somebody's going to propose adding a fifth face to Mount Rushmore, which would be Trump's. It's a cult. It's really creepy. It deserves your contempt. And most importantly, it needs to be disempowered in November with your vote. Let me know what you think in the comments.